Okay, so today we're looking at Genesis chapter 4, the story of Cain and Abel. This morning, well this afternoon actually, I planned to go to a cemetery to record this video to like a war cemetery. We actually did go to a war cemetery, and there will be a very few seconds, maybe a little bit more than about 10-15 seconds of the war cemetery I'm here. The reason being is because this chapter is about the first death, first murder. Now I know a war cemetery, the people, they didn't die because they were murderers, but they die violent deaths. Because ultimately someone started this war, and the person starting the war ultimately committing murder on a mass scale, because he sends his soldiers into a war to go and fight. Now yes, I do know that not all wars, especially if you are defending side, and they call it just war, right? So that then your people die defending their wives, their children, their families. Okay, in that sense, a just war. But there are those opposing forces who is fighting a war either to stop other people from fighting the war or coming to their country, or who plain just wants to grab more land. Now, in the case of the war cemetery, we went, trust me, with the British Empire and everything that happened here in Myanmar. A lot of those people died fighting against the locals. To sort of keep Myanmar or Burma at that stage a colony of Great Britain. So I would say the people sending them in here most likely send them to their deaths, which was to protect their own interest, financial interest. Okay? So in that sense I would classify that as basically murder. And so the idea was therefore to go there and to do it there, to get the background of death, destruction, people dying, as Cain is going to kill his brother in this chapter. But yes, unluckily in the end we could not do it there because we were not allowed to take even photos. Now I did sneak in a few photos and a little bit of video clips, so we will put it over here just to get an idea. Okay, so at present we are in a park here in downtown Yangon. Pretty nice park kind of, so if you're ever in the city, it's kind of where people sort of hang out. Maybe a little bit later in the day, more, still the heat of the day, but later on more people will come. Okay, right, so with all of that said, let's start then with verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Right, so now the first point here is the birth of Cain. Okay, the Eve giving birth, right? We know that God's intention was for man to, work the Garden of Eden, and then to fill the Garden of Eden, and to enlarge the Garden of Eden, and then ultimately to have more children and fill in the whole world ultimately. Okay, yeah, now as you can see, we've basically covered most of this planet, although I guess there are a few places up in the north of Siberia where like nobody, well not only in the north, but Siberia is pretty well, not a lot of people there. Anyhow, and I lived there quite a while, so I know what I'm speaking about. Anyhow, so that was the original intent of God, but then man sinned, all of us sinned, and man was chased out of the Garden of Eden, as you would recall if you haven't watched chapter 3, lesson on chapter 3, you can go and watch the lesson on chapter 3. Okay, so we are therefore now outside the garden. They can't go back to the garden, they can't get to the tree of life anymore. They will die. Man can't easily go to God any more than they had to. We've seen in chapter 3 that God still came down and spoke with man, So it's not as if God would not speak to man, right? God still did speak to man. In this chapter, we're going to see the exact same thing. God is going to come down and speak to Cain. So again, that is this high concept of man on one side, God on the other side. There's this huge chasm, and we can't get to God, right? That is very false view of life, of reality. The truer view is, yes, there's a chasm, but we don't want to cross over the chasm to get to God. Even if there was no chasm, we would still not cross over, right? If there was just a fine line that was easily crossable between us and God, we still would not have crossed it, right? That is the story of the message of the Bible. So this concept of, oh, there's this chasm and God made it impossible for us to get to Him, and so now we can't and get to God and go and make things dirty there in heaven or something like that. That's pretty false. That's not true to reality. Okay, we see it time and again, and we see it in this chapter as well. God is going to come over from His side, right? In other words, God can still commune with man. Yes, not in. Later on in the Old Testament, we will see the temple of tent of meeting where God met with people, right? The temple later on where God spoke through prophets the whole time. So God was communicating with people to get His message through. The problem again is not that the fact that there's this huge chasm between us and God and we can't build a bridge to cross it. The problem is that we never wanted to build a bridge to cross it. Okay? Adam and Eve, they didn't go search for God. They didn't cross the line to get to God and say, forgive us. No, they went and hide. Cain here, when God comes to speak to him, Cain's answer is going to be like, yeah, am I my brother's keeper kind of idea, right? Again, you see, the problem is not God, the problem is us. Right? So it's not this huge chasm between us and God. It's we who created this huge chasm because we hate God. We hate the holy. We don't want to go to God. Okay, so this concept of this chasm and then the cross in between, and now there's a cross and we can walk over it. I mean, that's a lot of nonsense. That's nonsense. So get at it. When you explain the gospel to people like that, please stop doing it, because you create so many problems with that. Right? So ultimately you say that we want to cross that bridge. No, we don't want to. Right? You imply that if you don't cross the bridge, you can't find salvation. Ultimately, so you still need to do something, walk over the bridge. Again, that's not true. You don't need to do anything to get salvation. Okay, Christ did it all. So it's not a bridge that you need to cross. It's a bridge that you don't want to cross. Even like that, right? It's in Christ. Christ calling you, Christ bringing you on, Christ taking you and putting and keeping you safe, putting His stamp on you, not you doing. Okay? Right, so here we then see the birth of Cain. Okay, and he was then called, gotten a man with the help of the Lord. So again, a man with the help of the Lord, right? Not on our own. God helped her to get a man. Okay, so she understands that this help comes from God in finding or in giving birth. But although it came with the child a lot of pain, as we've seen from chapter 3, that's how it's going to be. But still, the understanding from their point of view is that every birth ultimately is a gift of God. It's a help from God to be able to have a child. And that comes a bit as well back to the concept of being born again, right? In the fact that if God does not do the birth, right, the new birth, born again, like the Spirit working in us, as we see from John chapter 3, then we won't be born again. Same as I already explained a bit earlier today, right? This whole concept is chasm between man and God. So this work of God helping, right, from their point of view, yes, there's a man and a woman, but it's God giving the child. And in the same way, with the new birth, as explained in John chapter 3, the Spirit works, born of man, of God, not of man. Okay, so that as well is the only way to be born again, like they saw here as the birth of Cain as being done with the help of the Lord.